Welcome to this month's episode of Hempfield Happenings, a student-run news program. I'm your host, Gunnar Main.
And I'm Meredith Hunter. Our student news crews traveled to different cities across Pennsylvania to discover historical stories from each city that they visited.
You can see stories from Gettysburg, Hershey, and Boyertown, and from us.
Here in Lancaster County, enjoy the show.
Boyertown is a small yet interesting piece in the grand mosaic that is the state of Pennsylvania.
It's an old town founded nearly 2 centuries ago, but recently it's undergone some changes for the better.
This is the angle you're gonna get. Boyertown is a small community with a large history. Small businesses are ensuring the town's future while preserving its past.
I love the architecture of the town just because as an interior designer, I naturally gravitate towards that type of thing. So the structures of the buildings are really beautiful. I love the train. The train is fantastic, and they've done a ton of work bringing in a lot of tourism and things like that. And so that's just a really fun experience, and that I just think is really fantastic.
And then, of course, our town's, claim to infamy, which is the Opera House fire.
In January 1908, the Rhodes Opera House caught on fire and tragically ended the lives of around 170 people.
And it was a big deal. It was anybody was going to this play, to see a play.
And it was such a blow to the town because of how much, 170 people now, it's a lot, but back then it's crazy amount. So here at Building a Better Boyertown, I help the town with various community efforts. We are here to serve as a guide and a support system for both nonprofits and for-profit businesses in town.
Miss Lisa Rose is the owner of a gift shop called Happy Zen Mama in Boyertown.
We had our official grand opening on November 12th of 2020, and we were opened a couple of Saturdays in October. I love the sense of community and the support that the community offers to the residents and the businesses. It's incredible. We have a Building a Better Boyertown organization that has been so supportive and welcoming. So that's really the sense of community. That's how I grew up, and that's really what I love about Boyertown.
So everything is kind of up and coming in Boyertown, which is exciting. There's a little bit of everything. So there's some of everything depending on what you're looking for. Like we have the old-fashioned candy shop across the street, which is really cool. There's all the restaurants that are awesome. Hobby shop across the street, the other direction.
The town's history remains relevant in the museums and minds of its community as they work together to build a better Boyertown.
From Hempfield Happenings, I'm Larissa Schaefer.
We're here at Roots Farmers Market, one of the oldest of its kind here in Lancaster.
Here you can find great locally grown produce, handmade trinkets, and whoopie pies.
And for those that don't know, whoopie pies are actually a pretty important Lancaster County staple, and they also serve as a great sweet treat.
Our next story comes from the sweetest place on earth, Hershey, Pennsylvania, where we find out the story of Milton Hershey, its founder.
In Hershey, people could even start their own businesses.
Hershey chocolate bars are sold around the United States, but many people don't know the history on how Hershey chocolate bars got started.
The Hershey Chocolate Company was founded in 1894 by a man named Milton Hershey.
Milton Hershey is actually born and raised in Pennsylvania, in Lancaster area, and quit school at 14, which was very typical back then. Had an apprenticeship or two, but it was actually his mother who encouraged him to get into the candy making business.
With this encouragement, he started his first business, the Lancaster Caramel Company.
You know, Libby, I really think caramel's a fad. But chocolate, on the other hand, that's the future.
After realizing the caramel business would not last, Milton Hershey decided to explore another sweet avenue.
Chocolate was a very luxurious item. Why not bring that to the average person? Why not make it affordable?
Chocolate was only a stepping stone to the legacy that he would leave behind.
During the Great Depression, while a lot of towns were really failing, he utilized that and thought, well, you know what? I'm going to build the town up.
This led to the founding of the Hershey Industrial School, Hershey Theater, Hershey Hotel, Hershey Medical Center, Hershey Park, and more.
So he was a very different gentleman of the time, for sure.
From a struggling beginning to a successful entrepreneurship, Milton left a lasting legacy that still lives on today.
Reporting from Hershey from HSD TV 7, I'm Morgan Minnick.
Gunnar, did you know that Lancaster City was the capital of the United States for one day?
Oh, that was during the Civil War, right?
No, that was the Revolutionary War. The Civil War is usually associated with Gettysburg, not Lancaster.
Well, that's not always the case. You see, aside from the Civil War, Gettysburg can also be known for its many antique shops.
That's what our next story's about. Straight from Gettysburg, here's the strange but enthralling Mr. Ed's Elephant Museum and Candy Emporium.
The battlegrounds of Gettysburg draw millions of people a year looking to learn about its rich past. You can't walk through the square without being reminded of this town's significance in the Civil War, but there's more to Gettysburg's story than presidents and pistols. Since 1975, one family has been adding their own chapter to this textbook town.
Ed Gottwalt, affectionately known as Mr. Ed, he started the business down the road, just about a mile and a half closer to Gettysburg, as a general store. And Mr. Ed always collected elephants, and they used to be in his house. And when we relocated in the mid-'80s to this location, his wife said, we need to get rid of these elephants out of our house. We need to find something to do with them. So he just said, well, I'll put them on display. And he did.
This mammoth collection began with a simple gift.
Our very first elephant that Mr. Ed got was for a wedding present from his sister-in-law. And elephants are known as good luck. On his honeymoon, he collected 4 more. And on his way home, he told his wife, I'm going to start collecting elephants. And it kind of got out of hand. Currently, we have a little over 12,000 elephants on display in our museum, and that's about half of our collection. Almost all of the elephants that are in this main room are part of the original collection. And as you come up into this main room, the ramp that comes up on either side of the hallway are elephants that were all donated to our museum.
As the museum grew, so did its impact.
Our collection kind of shares a cultural history of America in terms of, Dumbo and other iconic elephant things. So some people have grandparents or their parents had this elephant statue in their house forever, and they didn't really think much of it, but then they come to our store and they look through our museum and they see this elephant that's identical to the one that their grandmother or their great aunt had on display in their house. And I think that it helps to connect people, and that I feel like is the most important thing about history, is connecting people to our past, but also trying to make something that's relevant.
I know Mr. Ed's has been here since I've been a little small child. On the way back to Gettysburg to the battlefields to do that kind of thing on a Saturday and Sunday as a small boy, we used to stop here and get candy for the ride over.
Mr. Ed's Candy Emporium and Elephant Museum may not have turned the tide of a civil war, but it still makes history in its own unique way.
From all over Pennsylvania, thanks for watching this month's episode of Hempfield Happenings.
Make sure to check out last month's episode and stay tuned for the episode coming next month.
Every spring, students in the Communication Technology program attend a Student Television Network National Convention. In order to prepare for this, the students simulate the main competition, Crazy Eights. with a very similar competition called Enthusiastic 8s.
Enthusiastic 8s is a competition where students have only 8 hours to plan, film, and edit either a short film or an 8-minute news show. You just watched the news show that our senior class put together. Here is a short film that the students created this year.
Man, why is the bus so late today?
Hey Elizabeth, how's it going?
Hey Ryan, are you going to school today?
No. I'm running some errands today.
Oh, what errands are you running?
I'm going out for some groceries.
Alright, well, see you later. Shoot, I should have asked Ryan for a ride to school. I wonder why he's skipping today, though. Ryan never skips school.
Hey Elizabeth, good morning.
Oh, hey Paige, what are you doing?
Just being prepared. Thought I might need this. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm waiting for the bus.
That's a good joke. Here, you might want to take this, just in case.
What am I supposed to do with this now?
Just a precaution. Anyways, see you later.
The bus should have been here by now. I'm gonna call my mom. Hey Mom, the bus is late. Do you think you could
Elizabeth, you know I'm at work. Whatever you're going to ask, the answer is no.
Well, guess I'm just gonna wait a little longer then.
Go Maggie. Yeah, come here.
What's up, Elizabeth?
Oh, just waiting for the school bus. It's taking forever to get here.
Okay. Let's go, Maggie.
Elizabeth!
What, Ryan?
How long have you been standing there?
All day. I'm beginning to think that the bus isn't coming.
They canceled school today because it was supposed to snow.
Are you serious?
Yeah, let me pull it up on my phone. Come on in, Elizabeth. I'll give you a ride home.
Thanks, Ryan. I cannot believe that I wasted my whole entire day just waiting out there.
One couple dedicated their property to growing native plants. Riley Wilton explored this nature reserve.
You're so bad.
She's okay. It's not uncommon to want to decorate your yard with ornamental plants. But do people always know where those plants come from? What about their effects on the environment? Greg and Vicki Wilson have dedicated their property to growing only native plants. This all started from Greg's high school love of fly fishing. To support this interest, he started dedicating time to projects that cleaned up local streams.
So I met people early in the 90s after we started moving along with these projects. They also found out that by having all these invasive plants, which we have so many of now, they are detrimental, and the native stream insects cannot live on those. They'd actually die if you gave them a sole diet of non-native plants. They can't digest them.
After that, Greg quickly got sucked into the world of environmental repair by finding himself with his own property to maintain.
So we purchased this property, and then the adjoining farm, 42 acres, came up for sale. And we're like, well, we don't want to have this property and try and preserve this and then have being encroached upon. So we purchased both these farms within about a year. Back in 2000, this property looked a lot different. There were very few trees other than the area below where our house is now, and that was pretty much overgrown because of lack of maintenance. So there was a lot of invasive plants, and then every year since then we've been adding several hundred trees and shrubs.
In only 16 years, the Wilsons managed to transform their once barren land into a healthy terrain, which Greg views as a personal plant paradise.
And once we take off the corn, we take off the wheat, we take off the soybeans and alfalfa, it's a desert. So this has kind of become I kind of view it as a little oasis.
It's important to look for beauty in the right place, because while invasive plants are also pretty to look at, they bring other issues.
When these kind of invasives take over, there's several negative impacts. For one is they outcompete our native plants. They start to grow earlier in the year, they grow later in the year, and they don't have any predators. And most people aren't aware of these things.
In addition to being educated, Greg also hopes more people will realize environmental healing is not as daunting as it seems.
And, the herbaceous stuff, the flowers, the stuff that attracts all the birds and butterflies, anybody can do that, even if you have just a container. And a lot of our plants I buy, they're $1.
Besides enlightening and advising others, Greg has his own goals to work towards.
Ideal landscaping is totally covered with green, so I'm trying to create a thicket that will create bird habitat, pollinator habitat, and dense understory.
Vicky, a devoted gardener, leaves most of the advocating to her husband, but does plenty of work on the property herself.
And a lot of people don't know that because he's the one that's always pushing the native plants, and I'm just the quiet person in the back that does the stuff. He goes to Montana every spring for 2 weeks. One year he ordered bare root seedlings to plant, and we planted the trees in the trench, and we just kept going, making rows and rows and rows and planting the trees. But we had almost all of them planted by the time Greg came home. Well, and every year we plant, a few thousand more.
Through all the planting and weeding, the Wilsons are confident they are making a difference.
Build it and they will come. Mother Nature's pretty cool.
The ongoing pandemic has affected many people's mental health. Ben Weaver dug into this rising issue.
COVID has impacted many facets of students' lives, including their mental health.
I absolutely am. I always talk to students that are struggling, with mental health issues or just social emotional issues, but I definitely feel like things are escalated this year, or maybe students that hadn't struggled are struggling just because of, this is a major, life event that's going on right now, and learning how to make sense with that and cope with that, and coping with not being able to see friends or family, and the lack of social connection, I think has been tough for both students and staff.
The effects of COVID-19 on students have been heavy, with 71% of 195 students stating they've experienced increased stress and anxiety since the pandemic began.
Students are not the only ones whose mental health is affected. Those in elderly care facilities' mental health is also impacted.
At first, they were annoyed because they were told they had to stay in their rooms and weren't allowed to eat dinner together or anything or see family, and it was only supposed to be for about 2 weeks in the spring, and then it stretched out to a month, and now here we are 9 months later. Many of them most of the time have been confined to their room. They haven't been able to see their families. There's also been some instances where a married couple who are able to live in a personal care apartment fairly independently, one of them will get sick and has to be moved to the healthcare unit, and the spouse cannot see them. I know one particular couple, they have not seen each other in 2 months because her husband is in the healthcare unit and she's not allowed to go visit him because they can't combine the units because of a fear of exposure of COVID. And I take care of both of them on either end, and it's been hard on both of them that they can't see each other. So I try to relay messages back and forth.
As you can see, COVID-19 has been hard on all of us, and we need to lean on each other to get through these tough times. For Hempfield Happenings, I'm Ben Weaver.
For artists and art lovers alike, every piece is a form of expression. Sabrina Lessons looked into the many ways a work of art can tell someone's story.
Lancaster County is known for its lively art scene, but who is it that brings that artwork to life?
Christiane David is one example of an artist who brings color to Lancaster County. Her vibrant paintings light up the Prince Street sidewalk through the windows of her gallery and invite art enthusiasts of all kinds inside. The walls are lined with wildlife and water scenes, and each create their own narrative. Like her work, Christiane David has an interesting story of her own.
That's the painting, it's this memory, and often I paint more about the feeling of memory.
Born in Brussels with life experience in France and the United States, David's art has been influenced from all over the world.
Well, there is a different approach to art between Europe and the US. I think that in the US, painting art is more cerebral. It has to be perfect or as close as possible. France or Europe are still very much emotional or romantic. I think it's good to have the two sides, the two approach. For me, I kind of improve my style, but still can put this lovely feeling in my work.
David's self-described loose and spontaneous art style reflects how she learns and changes from each new experience.
I was living in a small country with the color more muted, earthy tones, grayish, beautiful grayish sky. And when I came here, I discovered that it's so powerful, colorful, so my palette changed.
Christiane David's artistic eye has given her the ability to learn lessons from the little things, which she then uses her paintings as a medium to communicate.
I put a lot of emotion and love in my work. Like if I do flowers, I want to paint what the flower tells me. They are survivors, and that's a theme that I put in all my work. The strength. Even the flowers or plant, they are strong, they are living things, so the life has to show through.
Her colorful creations speak for themselves and to other people. Dr. John Walker is a local art collector who, with works from all over the country, keeps coming back to Christiane David.
It's nice to look at the piece and say, I know that artist, and this just is an extension of their personality.
Like the artist, he believes every piece has a message that goes deeper than the surface of the canvas.
It speaks to me. Every piece has a story, and we love to share those stories.
Each piece on Dr. Walker's walls makes up a piece of his own identity.
I'm very much drawn to geometric patterns, and we've always liked lots and lots and lots of color. We're also very eclectic.
Almost every surface of his apartment is covered with unique creations, proving how touching a work of art can truly be. For both the creator and the collector, art is about individuality.
For Hempfield Happenings, I'm Sabrina Lessons.
As we all know, COVID-19 has affected many aspects of our lives. It's even affected how we carry out ComTech and how we make this news show and the morning announcements. Ryan Webb takes a deeper look into this matter.
3, 2, 1, forward.
Whether it be social distancing or face masks, many things have changed about the typical school classroom this year due to COVID-19. Some unconventional classrooms, such as art or gym classes, have had to get creative with the ways they keep their students safe. One such unconventional classroom is the one I'm in right now, communication technology. ComTech is an elective centered around creating video projects. While students usually get free reign over what they produce, regulations have been set in place that change how they do their work.
So those kind of restrictions are mostly in like the editing lab and like equipment side out. So in the editing lab, every other computer is usable pretty much. Every one in between is like closed off because of like social distance and like sanitary reasons, half the amount of people can actually edit at once now in the editing lab.
Safety is the focus of these restrictions, with social distancing being enforced in both the editing lab and the studio. Masks are also required at all times, even when on camera.
When I usually speak on air, I'm getting the sensation of like actually talking to someone, but when I have a mask on, it just gets all jumbled up, my words, because I don't have that same feeling as if I'm talking to someone. There's definitely things that I wish could be changed, like masks, of course, and not having to keep social distancing in mind. It gets in the way sometimes when we try to get together.
I mean, at first, I feel like for like everybody in the whole school, like it was hard to like adhere to all the new regulations and rules, but over time, especially us in the program, like we really pulled through and like made sure we were following the rules and like wiping everything down and keeping distance.
These safety changes will likely stay around until the end of the school year, and though they might get in our way, we in the ComTech program will continue to do the best work we can for our student news broadcasts. For Hempfield Happenings, I'm Ryan Webb.
Thanks for watching this month's episode of Hempfield Happening.
And make sure to tune in next month for the episode in March.